Labour are blaming government incompetence over border control for the spread of the Delta variant, what we used to call the Indian variant, which has now led to a 4-week delay in the lifting of lockdown.
Shadow Health Secretary Jonathan Ashworth joins us now. Very good morning to you, Mr.
Morning.
Ashworth. It's really important, this discussion of border policy, because the government insists that they've had a very strict border policy right from the start, whereas everybody else thinks it's been full of holes. The important thing is whether shutting down the border to India earlier could have stopped more cases of the Delta variant coming in. Were you talking about this back in April? Because we've had a look through the archives. We're not sure that this was something. We know you're talking about it now, but were you standing up in Parliament and wagging your finger about it back then?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Keir Starmer brought a vote in Parliament, I think it was February, for tougher borders because we were really worried that a variant would get through Boris Johnson's weak, puny border controls. I mean, our borders have been as secure as a sieve. So, no, we have been talking about this for some time.
And that's back in February. That's really important. That was because of the South African variant. But when it came to introducing, putting India on the red list, did you insist at the beginning of April that India should be on the red list? Because a lot of people blame the fact that it took too long for India to join Pakistan on the red list for this particular problem.
Well, we were raising concerns about the border policy as a whole because we were saying this border policy will not protect us from a new variant that emerges from other countries. And that is exactly what has happened. That's why back in February and early March...
It's just that, you know, shutting the door after the horse is bolted is and kept in hindsight are the things that you're often accused of. So you did not say that India should be on the red list at the same time as Pakistan was put on the red list.
We were raising concerns about India, but back in February we were saying this border policy is weak, this border policy is puny, it's got holes in it, and unless you fix this border policy, a new variant is going to reach our shores, which is exactly what has happened. So, with respect, that is not after the horse has bolted, that was flagging early on that this policy is not adequate. And it doesn't matter whether the variant emerged in India or South Africa or parts of Europe or South America, that if a different border policy would have protected us from whatever country a variant came from. Well, we warned about this, and look exactly where we are. Yes, they should have put India on that red list earlier. Yeah. Instead, because of their border policy, they effectively gave this variant the red carpet treatment rather than red listing it. All right. And that's why restrictions have been extended today.
Well, let's take what you've just said at face value then, and let's accept your assertion that the opposition was flying the flag on this and saying there is an issue, there is a problem. It's the job, obviously, of opposition to hold governments to account when they're getting it wrong. And there was widespread understanding and belief that they were getting it wrong about the Indian variant and closing the borders. You failed to hold them to account because you didn't get them to change their policy. You say you issued warnings and you introduced conversations in the Houses of Parliament, but nothing happened. So actually, as an opposition, you failed, didn't you?
Well, I mean, sadly, we fail often in Parliament because the government, the Conservative Party, have got so many more MPs than the Labour Party. But when we brought a vote to the House of Commons to put in place a different border policy, Boris Johnson, Priti Patel, Matt Hancock and all the Tory MPs who sit behind them voted it down. And look where we are now. The restrictions have been extended. And this Delta variant, rather than red listing it when we needed to do, Boris Johnson gave it the red carpet. Complacency again, I'm afraid.
Well, to coin a phrase, we are where we are, and given that we are where we are, do you think that the announcement yesterday makes sense?
Like you, Richard, we are where we are. So sadly, we do need to extend these restrictions. We need to spend the next few weeks now really trying to push infection rates down. I think you can do that by sorting out the sick pay and financial support for people to isolate. It's still not been resolved 15 months on. Getting better at ventilation. We now know that this virus is airborne, and if you ventilate buildings either by doing the simple stuff like opening the windows, but if they can't do that because of the design of the building, installing the air filtration kits, which many other countries are putting into their buildings, and the CO2 monitors and all the equipment that can improve the air quality, you can deal with this virus. So there are things that have to happen now, because obviously I want to get back to normal.
Yeah.
I want to go to football games again with a full crowd, not half a crowd.
What will Labour do then when it comes to the vote on extending the restrictions?
With a heavy heart, we will vote for extending these restrictions.
But you've said that the restrictions should only be extended if other measures are introduced.
Because I think it would be dangerous not to have the restrictions extended, because I think we do need to get on top of the virus. It is growing again. Hospitalisations are going up. I mean, we have broadly broken that link because of the success of our vaccination programme, but we've really got to protect that successful vaccination programme by doing all we can to stamp down on this outbreak now.
But it just seems that you are, the way you're describing the party, Jonathan Ashworth, is completely powerless. It's like you're a voice in the wilderness. You are Her Majesty's opposition. You should be much tougher on this. You should be demanding all of these changes and having some leverage and refusing to back the restrictions unless these things are put into the measures. I mean, we spoke to somebody in charge of hospitality just a few moments ago, who's absolutely catatonic about the rent moratorium ending this month, about business rates starting up again, and about furlough not being extended. I mean, how can you say you're going to vote for these restrictions with a heavy heart, but surely you have to put some conditions in?
Because it's just a straight up and down vote in the House of Commons, and if we defeated them on these restrictions, there'll be no restrictions in place. And I know it's frustrating. I mean, I think we make the arguments persuasively day after day in the House of Commons, but the Tory MPs are not persuaded because they always do what Boris Johnson asks them to do and vote against us. And they've got more MPs than we have. That's just the maths of the House of Commons.
Well, you said that there are some backbench Tory MPs who say that they oppose the lockdown restrictions being extended, but they know they're going to lose the vote because you're going to vote with the government. You do have some power here.
But all that would mean is that there were no restrictions in place, and I think that's irresponsible in the circumstances when we can see that this Delta variant, which came to our shores because of the lax border policy, is growing. We need to do all we can over the next few weeks to really squash it down. So I'm afraid we do need these restrictions extended for a few more weeks.
Well, we obviously take the point about the government majority, the Conservative majority, and obviously the majority of Tory MPs are going to do what their Prime Minister wants them to do, and that's how, as you say, that's how it works. But do you think you've got a problem? I mean, what I think we're banging on about here is the ineffectiveness of the opposition, and I wonder if part of that problem is with your leader, is with Keir Starmer. Do you think Keir Starmer's up to it? Because he hasn't really laid a glove on Boris Johnson, has he, in the House of Commons? He hasn't really speared him, and he's had plenty of opportunities, and the Indian variant is one of them, and he hasn't really made a mark.
I think he has. I think he is a superb leader of the Labour Party who will make a first-class Prime Minister. A general election is a good few years away, but when you look at the pandemic, not the day-to-day of the virus and the infection rates and the variants, look at what the pandemic has exposed more broadly. It is the insecurity and the precariousness of life.
No, don't slide off the point. No, stop. Don't slide off the point about Keir Starmer. Let's talk about him. Let's not broaden it. Let's keep it to him. Were you embarrassed by his appearance on the Piers Morgan programme? Because my toes curled.
No, I thought it was excellent. I thought I'm a big fan of Piers, and I'm a big fan of yours, Richard. But I thought it was a really good. I thought it was obviously, and of course you, Susanna, as well. Big fans of all of you.
It's not a popularity contest.
Seriously, it was a bit embarrassing to see the leader of the opposition, Her Majesty's opposition. He's got quite a lot on his plate at the moment, and a lot to do, as I was saying in that previous question, going on a talk show really, and crying. It was odd.
Richard, I mean, you have done. You are renowned for being an extremely successful television host who has interviewed big-name personalities and done emotional interviews with them over many, many years. It's important that people open up a bit and you get to know a bit about their backgrounds. And if you'd done an interview with a leading politician who'd opened up about some very personal things, I think you'd consider that a successful interview.
OK, well, that's a perfectly fair response.
Yeah, it was an excellent interview. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to a Keir bounce.
You don't do these things to sort of lead to a sort of bounce day and day out the next
Jonathan.
day. I mean, you do these things.
Sorry, Mr. Ashworth, Keir Starmer didn't do it just to do Piers Morgan a favour. He did it because he expected it to humanise him, to give a bigger, broader picture of who Sir Keir Starmer is. He did that brilliantly in the interview, but what you want it to do is to have a broader appeal amongst the electorate, and that didn't happen.
But what the Labour Party has to do, it needs to show that Keir Starmer will be an excellent Prime Minister, but it also needs to outline its vision for the future of the country. I mean, we've got children who've lost a year's worth of education. This pandemic has exposed the insecure work in our economy. We know in the NHS, which I deal with day to day, that the waiting lists are at 5 million and the people are waiting longer for cancer care, young people waiting longer for mental health care, such as for eating disorders. These are the issues that we are focusing on, and we'll be going to the country at the next general election with a set of policies which will make life better for people on these types of issues. So that's the challenge for us.
OK, listen, we have to wrap it there. Thanks very much for your time. Enjoyed talking to you.